Let's rock and roll. Welcome everybody to Ad Grant Impact. Ashley here with us today. We're really excited to be able to speak about ad grants. There are so many amazing nonprofits out there with really amazing causes. Like just before we were getting started here, hearing about some of the missions out there, it's very feel good, very powerful things going on. But every nonprofit, we talked about some of the grassroots, smaller ones just getting started, all the way up to like Red Cross. There's two things that are kind of always a need that you never grow out of, right? And it's awareness and funding. And so the ad grant is just a really good way to address both of those, no matter if you're just getting started or if you're huge. So really excited to be able to serve you all here today and talk about using ad grants. So let me just really quick introduce Ashley. So Ashley is the founder and CEO of Rank Monsters. Rank Monsters was one of the very first organizations that was part of the partnership program for Google with being certified for the ad grant. So there's only like 46, I think, companies in the world that are certified by Google for the ad grant, and she was one of the first ones, or her company was. So lots of experience, lots of just kind of seen it all, getting ad grants back, applications, workarounds, all kinds of stuff, just a wealth of information. So I say that to say, if you've got a question, don't be afraid to ask Ashley. She probably has an answer for you. So Ashley, thank you so much for being here today. So Ashley, since there was most of us here not using the ad grant yet, could you walk us through a big picture? What do we mean when we say ad grant? And walk us through some of the eligibility and requirements.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again, everybody that has joined us today. So Google Ad Grants is a program offered by Google that gives you $10,000 a month. It's $329 per day to spend on Google text ads. Once you are approved for the ad grant, you continue to get it month after month. So it's not like once you get approved, then you just have it for a year and you have to reapply. You will always have it as long as the grant campaign stays in compliance. It is available for 501c3 nonprofits, excluding a few such as hospitals, education, and government. However, foundations would be approved for the ad grant. We work with several foundations. One of the requirements is that you have a high quality website, and we do offer a free website audit if you are wanting to apply for ad grants and you want your website reviewed before doing the application process. We will do that for you. High quality kind of means that you have a clear mission, you have pages to use as landing pages, you have your 501c3 status in the footer, and active conversion tracking on your website. So there's a few things there. So when you get the $329 to spend per day, it is possible to go over the $10,000 per month, and we have several accounts that do that. However, you'll never be charged from Google, so that is free grant money. Also, if your campaign is performing very well, in November, you will receive double funds if you apply for it for the giving season. So a lot of our accounts will get $20,000 in November and December to market for donations during giving season as well.
So up to $10,000 a month is $329 a day is what that comes out to.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you do well in the giving season, it can double.
Yes, absolutely.
Then as a visual, for those of you who have no idea like how Google Ads works, I think this would be helpful, right? So you're going to go like, this is mobile on the right. This is just your desktop. You do a search. And if you've built out your ads in a way to where this search is relevant to what your nonprofit does, like this right here, where it says sponsored, is a visual of what a normal advertiser would have to pay for, but Google's going to give you up to $10,000 a month in free ads and in this format, right?
That is correct. And Oklahoma Contemporary is one of our grant customers, and that is a grant ad.
Cool.
So that is a free ad that they are getting from Google using Google Ad Grants when people search fun things to do OKC. And of course, they have many other keywords that their ads will show up for.
Awesome. So can you actually just, give us like a destination in mind once a nonprofit has the ad grant? How does it like actually move the needle in impacting their mission?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the example that we just saw, basically these ads are for text ads. So when somebody's going to Google and they're searching keywords, they're going to find your ad. So this is a great way to connect with an audience that doesn't know about you. Or an audience that does know about you, but they don't know certain events that you have coming up or offerings that you have. So it's a great way to raise awareness, drive new traffic to your website, donations, volunteers, basically get more users to your website. And then the goal is to not only get more traffic to your website, but to get meaningful conversion goals completed. There was some things on that last slide. Let me go. I did go ahead because we are sending this presentation out, and I wanted to make sure that it's useful to individuals that might want to apply on their own. So I have included ad grants, frequently asked questions, as well as the program policies and guidelines and account management policies. Because once you get ad grants, you have to maintain compliance, not only to keep the ad grant active, but to keep it performing well. Because even if your ad grant is active, but you're not in compliance, like it hasn't been suspended, but you're not doing everything you need to based on policy, then it won't perform well. So you'll want to look at that very well to make sure all of that is in compliance.
We'll send out an email with the PDF. And then, so if you're like, oh, what is the link? Like, you can tell it's like the green, but you'll be able to kind of click through and go there as a shortcut for the right places.
Absolutely. And we're going to go into some of these policies and account management as we go through this presentation as well.
Awesome.
So this is an example of one of the customers that we also work with, which is Museum of the Bible. We have been working with them for a long time, since 2013. They were just doing road shows at that time. It's before their museum was even open. And so we kind of talked about what the ad grant can do for you. And that's why we've included this, because we want to kind of show you how they use it. So we are now using ad grants to help sell tickets, drive general awareness over biblical topics, the museum, things that are closely related and also broadly related, but to drive traffic and awareness back to the Museum of the Bible's website. We also advertise their upcoming events and exhibits. So this is a look at 6 months to give you an idea. So we've spent in 6 months over $240,000 of grant money from Google. Now, it's important to note that Museum of the Bible, because they've been with us for so long, we actually did apply for and get the ad grant for them originally. And at that time, they also had a program called Grants Pro, which is no longer available, but it was a $40,000 monthly grant. So we run across nonprofits often that have that grant and they don't know about it. And if you are grandfathered into Grants Pro, you'll want to make sure that you're actively managing the account so that you don't lose it. So this account has spent more, and that's because they have $40,000 a month to spend instead of just $10,000. But that resulted in over 340,000 impressions, 44,000 clicks put on their ads, where it sent users to their website. Their click-through rate is almost 13%, which means our ads are targeting the right audience and they're clicking on the ads. and we had over 2,900 conversions. A conversion for them is a ticket sell or purchase from their shop. So that's the other thing that we're marketing is their online shop as well. So if you have a merchandise or store on your website, you can also promote that using Google Ad Grants. And then cost per click is around $5 on this campaign. One thing about Google Ad Grants is it used to have a max $2 cost per click bid. That has gone away. So Isaac mentioned that we're one of the 46 agencies in the world certified by Google to manage ad grants. We were actually one of the original 9 agencies. So in 2018, we went through a year of training with Google to learn how to maximize the ad grant for grantees. And in that time, they lifted that $2 max click. And so now we can use conversion-based bid structures, and we can compete along against paid ad campaigns as well. And we're looking for performance and structure of campaign.
Which we'll get into, I think, in a little bit. Yeah. So for those of you here who have zero background in some of the marketing terms and like advertising terms, I might maybe just really quick, like an impression is when your ad is shown. Remember a couple of slides ago when it's like, this is a screenshot of Google and this is the ad. So it shows that that's an impression, if that's news for you. And then if someone clicks the ad, that's the click. And then the percentage of people that click through when it was displayed, that's your click-through rate. And then like Ashley said, conversion is when you're measuring something and then it happens. That is a lot of free money that they were able to spend. I love it.
Yeah.
Walk us through a couple of the beginner steps for applying for the ad grant.
Yeah. So the first part we talked about, which was review your website. The biggest thing is make sure you have that 501c3 status in your footer. And then also make sure that you have pages on your website that you can use as landing pages. When your ad is clicked on, that is the page that the user is going to land on. So we saw that things to do ad. When a user clicks on that, it's going back to that website and it's going to land on a specific page. So you want to make sure that you have pages that you're going to be able to use when you create your ads. The next step is you're going to sign up at google.com/nonprofits and apply for your nonprofit membership. Once you're approved for that, you can apply for the Google Ad Grant. You also can get free G Suites for nonprofits. There's YouTube for nonprofits. There's a lot more that you can use with your nonprofit membership than just getting this awesome $10,000 monthly grant. So that's a great resource in itself. Of course, you're going to want to complete the application from Google Ad Grants, and they are going to have training material if you go down this process on your own. So you start at the nonprofit website for Google.
Can I ask you a question, Ashley? Mm-hmm. Does the EIN for the C3 need to be in the footer on like globally on all the pages, or does it just need to be somewhere?
We usually always put it on the footer, so it'll be globally on all the pages. And honestly, when we so we have a 100% approval rate, but when we do get denied, it usually has to do with the mission not being clear and the 501c3 status not being easily found. Also, website policy does include things like broken images, low resolution images. So you'll want to make sure that all of that is in place.
And if you apply and you get denied, it's not like scary, right? You can kind of just fix it and then keep going. Okay.
Yeah. So Google will reply back with kind of a general note of why it was not approved and what you need to change. If you get to that process, or if you get to that point, and you've tried on your own and you have any questions, you can always email us or forward us the email, and we'll help pinpoint the area on your website that needs to be addressed.
Awesome. So once you apply and you are in and you have access to the ad grant, let's walk through how the actual ad platform works. Since when we did the poll, most people were not using the ad grant. I think from some of the discussion before we started, there's probably some people here who are familiar with just like Google's, ad manager. But I think a lot of nonprofits are going to look at this and say, wow, this is information overload. There's a whole lot of things going on here. Where should I start? So can we just sort of walk through, if you're like, imagine you're first getting started, a nonprofit new to this, how should you be thinking with setting up and building out your campaign?
Absolutely. So we start at creating a campaign. Now, at this point, we've already done a deep dive into the website that we're working on. We've already kind of created our plan of action, and we know what landing pages we're using for our ad campaigns. But you're going to create campaigns, and basically, a campaign will have several ad groups underneath it. A campaign is going to be based on targeting a specific area and a bid structure, and possibly a specific audience as well. When we're starting a brand new ad grants campaign, we usually will start it on max clicks. Now, we'll need to adjust off of that pretty quickly to maximize conversions, but we will start on max clicks for our bid structure so that we can get data, start getting some data and some clicks. And what that means is we're asking Google to basically use a bid structure that maximizes the number of clicks we get with our campaign. So we're trying to get as many clicks as possible. And from there, we will already have had conversion tracking set up on our website. So we'll start getting data on the conversions that are being completed. So once we start getting data into a campaign, then we'll change to maximize conversions. We won't sit there too long because we will then adjust to maximize conversion value, which is where you're giving an actual monetary value to the conversions that are completed. So our more important conversions, like a donation, a form completed, something that's capturing information of the user, will give that a higher conversion value so that Google will optimize the campaign around getting more of those types of conversions. In this example, we're giving an example here of another customer that we work with, which is a science museum for children. And you see here that they have 4 different campaigns running, and it's because they're in hill country in Texas. So they're in a popular tourist area. So we have one that's called Explorer Zone, which is their exhibit. And that's kind of more for their local and Austin market. Then we have one that's Hill Country Johnson City, that's targeted again to their local area. Then we have one for Hill Country Johnson City National. So this is targeting people planning to travel to that area. So we're wanting to capture them to potentially come to the Children's Museum when they travel there. Then the next thing is we have a campaign just for their science store. So we have 4 different campaigns here, all with different target areas and intent.
So when you're first getting started, you should be thinking, just kind of recapping, because there's a lot getting started, right? So you're thinking, okay, number one, how should I kind of categorize my initiatives, categorize my goal? Should also be thinking within that how location comes into play, and then your bid strategy. Those are kind of the first 3 things you should be doing.
Absolutely.
Yep. And you're saying start with maximize clicks just to get data, especially if it's a new campaign. And then as soon as Google has enough data, it's a better play to spend more of your grant money to focus on measuring bidding by maximizing conversions. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
So now that we have our campaign structured, we're going to talk about organizing ad groups. So you see here, the campaign that we're under is the Hill Country Johnson City local campaign. So that's the campaign that we're in. Now we're looking at all the ad groups that we're structuring underneath. So you're going to create ad groups that are specific to keywords that you're targeting. And so the ad group will have these types of keywords underneath them, and they'll also have ads that are specific to those keywords that will go to landing pages that are specific to those types of keywords. So next is selecting the keywords. And so we clicked into the things to do ad group. And so obviously this is a science museum. So we're targeting things to do with kids, with children, things to do in the area. This is in their local city. So we're also targeting the surrounding towns like Dallas and Austin, putting some location targeting in there as well. When you're selecting your keywords, you're going to know several of them based on just creating your ad group, but there also is a keyword tool in here that will help you come up with other keywords as well. And then you can also do search on Google to find other related keywords that you want to add in here. We do typically keep keywords on broad match, but as we start to get more conversions, we might also still use phrase match, which Google will want you to use broad match, but phrase match still works very well, especially pinpointing in on conversions.
Actually go back a slide because it's like can emulate. So if you're in the campaign manager, you're going to start here, then it's going to take you to the ad groups. And then ad groups there's a bunch of things that live inside the ad group. So one layer deeper then is going to be is keywords, sorry. Here's load down. So then you add groups to keywords. So the keywords are all inside of an ad group, right? So there's the campaign. Inside of each campaign, there are ad groups. And inside of each ad group, there are the keywords. And keywords is just like when we're looking at the screenshot in the beginning, someone does a search in Google. The search is basically the keyword, and it's going to trigger that one ad in that one ad group in that one campaign. Is it worth bringing up now, or you want to bring up later? Like, should you be cautious of like accidentally bidding against yourself and competing keywords and how you organize that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So when we're structuring our ad group, within a campaign, we make sure not to do competitive ad groups. So especially since you're doing a lot of keywords underneath the ad grant campaign on broad match, you don't need to have a ton of ad groups that are kind of competing, like similar type keywords. You want to try to keep them very specific and not to compete.
Like we have these ad groups, things to do, science museum, children's museum. It's really smart to make sure that the keywords or the search phrases really closely correlate inside the ad group. Mm-hmm. Cool. Talk about compelling ads.
Yeah. So the next thing we're doing is we're looking at ads. So these are two ads underneath one of the ad groups, the things to do ad group that we were already talking about. So one, you'll see a responsive ad, which in the next slide, we're going to see the full ad because it has 16 titles and 4 descriptions, and we're just seeing a little bit of it. Also, we have the old ad type, which is the expanded text ad, which is no longer available. I just left this in here for people that are currently running ad campaigns. Just to know, we still leave these live. We just make sure that we have the responsive ad underneath there as well. And we kind of let it go until it phases itself out and starts getting 0 impressions, and then we'll pause it.
Do you have any recommendations on how many different ads you should put, like in an ad group or with the responsive where there's a bunch of versions? Do you need to worry about that very much?
So typically with us, we will do 1 or 2 responsive ads underneath each ad group. 1 responsive ad is good, especially because we're also running dynamic ad groups. So we will typically only do 1 responsive ad per ad group. So this is kind of an example of a responsive ad. And as you can see here, not only are you going to have up to 15, I'm sorry, I think I said 16 a few seconds ago, but up to 15 headlines, but you're also going to have the opportunity to add images and call out, call to actions, extensions, such as other pages, the call extension. We also will link up your Google My Business account to put a location extension in here as well. And so you can kind of see that. So they are for text ads, but the text ads can still include many things. So the main thing is to make sure that it's keyword focused. So make sure that your keywords are in the ads, in your headlines. And you can see here, as you're adding them, it will highlight. So when you added your keywords in, and now you're creating your ad, it's going to identify if you have added keywords that match what you have in your campaign. And it's going to give you an ad strength. And then also let you know if it's creative enough and if you have enough call to action. So we try to make sure that it's keyword focused, also that we mention the brand, that we have a strong call to action and emotional triggers, meaning like trying to make it kind of creative so that you have a higher click-through rate. Our click-through rates are usually always over 10%, and a click-through rate has to be over 5% on an ad grant campaign in order to stay in compliance. So you want to make sure your ads are compelling and that the user is wanting to interact and click on the ads so that they go back to your website. And so the first part is to make sure that your ad copy is compelling, but also adding the additional things that you can add: images, logos, call outs, and call to action.
If this is all doing well, like it's really tight with the keywords that you've added, lines up with the ad group, lines up with the ad. So when someone does the search, will Google give you like a discount on your bid if it's got a high quality all around ad like this?
Not exactly. You will have a higher quality score. And so the higher quality score your ad group or your campaign has, the more impression share you will get. So you want to have a high quality, campaign. And so it kind of needs all these points that we're going through.
Got it. What about dynamic ads?
So, and David had a question there that we will get to at the end. So dynamic ads, we actually have a lot of success using dynamic ads underneath ad grant campaigns. So this is a very interesting one as well. So dynamic ads can work in a few ways. One, you can give it the whole URL and a couple of descriptions. And basically, Google AI will go out and It'll read the different pages on your website and will create ad groups and ads and keywords for those pages. You can exclude URLs. So like if you want to exclude your blog, your contact page, old events, archived events, you can exclude URLs and still have it crawl your entire URL. The benefit of that is as you add new content to your website, you'll constantly be creating new ads for it without having to do anything.
Will it create a new ad group as well, or just add ads and keywords based on new pages automatically?
So in this scenario, you still have those two descriptions that you've put in there. And so it's basically kind of using those two descriptions that would be kind of generic if it's for your entire URL, but it will then go out and it will see that new URL that's been added, and it will create additional descriptions and keywords and titles based on the content that's on that page. So with dynamic ads in that sense, you kind of have less control over it. Whereas the ad group structure that we just looked at, we are intentionally targeting specific keywords. We're telling Google what keywords we want to target. In this scenario, you're kind of giving them their page and they're seeing based on your content on your website what keywords you would be relevant for. There's another way to use dynamic ads as well, and that's where you give them specific URLs. So you create ad groups with dynamic ads based on a specific URL. Well, you'll give it a few descriptions and then it will read just that URL, not the entire website, but that specific page to create ads for. So that's also a very useful way to use it.
I see, like if you were a nonprofit that did a lot of events and you had an event page, that would be like, could save a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we use a lot of dynamic ads actually with Museum of the Bible as well, because they're constantly adding new content. And so it works very well and still provides a high conversion rate. The only thing you'd want to do is if you start using dynamic ads and you're spending all of your budget but not getting a lot of conversions, you'll want to pull that back. And you can dig in deeper to where, what keywords and what pages are performing under dynamic ads and create ad groups specifically for that.
I was just going to ask, because you're kind of like leaning on AI, or like Google's AI, and which I'm sure will get better over time. But it seems like right now, if you're a pro, you can take some of the data and just dial it in a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Cool. So someone goes to Google, they do a search, that's keyword. The keyword triggers an ad, which lives in an ad group, which lives in a campaign. They click your ad and they go here to landing page, just so everyone's on the same page with the phrase landing page. So walk us through optimizing landing pages.
Absolutely. So this goes back to our things to do ad group, where we're targeting things to do in Johnson City, things to do in Hill Country, things to do in Hill Country with children. I'm Googling those types of keywords and I've clicked on this ad for the Science Mill and now I've landed on this page. So it's actually instead of going to their homepage, it's going to their exhibit page. And their call to action is to buy tickets. That's their main thing. They want people to buy tickets. And so that's the only conversion action that we're tracking on this page. Each one of these exhibits also obviously has its own ad group, but for the things to do, it is going to this general landing page. We usually will not use the homepage as the landing page unless it is for a brand ad group. So where we're targeting the organization's name, which honestly we do not do too often, because with the ad grant, we're trying to target people searching for keywords. We're trying to reach a new audience. We're trying to reach an audience that's not intending on visiting our customer's website. And so we're really trying to reach them in different keyword ways And so we're sending it to inside pages of the website. We also often will use blog pages as landing pages as creative ways to reach the target audience.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Like, 'cause we we're talking about before, you just made me think you're talking about you really a huge objective here is awareness for a new audience,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what a great way to not have to spend money to make a bunch of new relationships and to like match people with exactly what they're looking for. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about tracking meaningful conversions? And actually, let me just kind of highlight here. So in the bottom right hand corner, there's this orange buy admission tickets. And Ashley had mentioned, like, in this context, purchasing a ticket is a type of conversion. But can you actually walk us through a little bit on when you say, sorry, my computer slowed down up there. When you say tracking a meaningful conversion, what does that mean?
Yeah. So conversion tracking is going to be one of the most important things that you do for your ad campaign, especially for Google Ad Grants. When a user visits your website, you want to make sure that they're completing some kind of action that can be tracked, because these ad campaigns work best on a conversion-based bid structure, which was maximize conversions or maximize conversion value. So if a user is going to your website and they're not completing a conversion, then, or they are completing a conversion, but you don't have conversion tracking in place, then Google thinks that you're not relevant for that keyword, that the user is not finding the information on their website that's connecting with them. And that's part of having a high quality website, is you have to be advertising to users that are interested in your product, service, mission, and completing a meaningful conversion. And a meaningful conversion can be a form completed, signing up for a newsletter. It can be click to call, so call tracking. It can be making a donation. A lot of nonprofits that we work with, they're wanting to use Google Ad Grants to make donations. Also, it can be used for smaller conversions, such as, watching a video, obviously, like we talked about, purchasing a ticket, purchasing something from your shop. But for individuals that are wanting to use it for donations, we always try to come up with a gradual approach. And we find a lot of success in surveys for donations. And then also, so like Museum of the Bible was one of our examples. We also work with Voice of the Martyrs, and they're wanting to use ad grants, obviously, also for donations. And we do that by sending out a free prayer guide. So a user would come to the website and sign up to get this free prayer guide. Or with Museum of the Bible, they sign up for the Daily Minute, where they get a daily email with scripture. So that's a good example of a small micro conversion that can start building a relationship with a potential donor that could turn into something more in the future. So for ad grant purpose, it's more of relationship building, because we're going to be using different types of keywords to get the potential donor back to the website through blog topics, through different topics that they might be interested that drive them back to your site. And then you need to build a relationship with them in some way other than just asking for a donation right off the bat. Because even these larger nonprofits that people are more familiar with, they need a gradual approach than just asking for a big donation right off the bat. They still have the opportunity to donate, but a easier yes is usually better to start that relationship.
Friction. I think that that's a mentality in marketing and sales, nonprofits, and everywhere that would be useful if people implemented it, like on the advertising side. Just hearing you say, like, yeah, it makes sense. If I was there in person, I would prefer to say yes to a smaller ask and get involved. And if someone just right out of the gate, first time looking for them, asked me for a bunch of money, I'd be like, very, very helpful. So for those of you here who are involved, I met the bunny trail, but I think that's just really good advice across the board. And then especially it pays off when you're using ad grants. So very helpful. You ready to move forward?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. So can you tell us a little bit about how to maximize the ad grants and maybe unpack what we mean when we say to maximize it?
hmm So $10,000 a month is a lot to spend per month on Google Ads, especially because one thing we haven't really talked about is that ad grant campaigns are competing with paid advertisers. And paid advertisers are going to get that space before the ad grant advertisers get that space. And so we can get in that space with the paid advertisers with a very high quality campaign that has a high score. And in order to get that, we have to get impression share in order to get that data. So we spend a lot of time looking for longer tail keywords, getting creative. I talked a little bit about using blogs. We also create new pages often. So we do a discovery meeting with our customers where we learn about their goals for the ad grant and what they're really wanting to market. And a lot of times you might need to create new pages to reach that goal because you're essentially trying to connect with your target audience through keywords. So any way they might be searching, I'm going to give an example because I think examples are easiest. We work with Table for One Ministry, and this nonprofit, they do public speaking for churches about singles ministry. They also do a lot of resources for single adults. So they have two customers, the churches and single adults. So you would think the keywords would just be singles ministry. We actually get the most conversions from loneliness type keywords from both churches and singles. And he started with us in November and he had a suspended campaign. We started running him in January, and since then, he's brought in over $8,000 in speaking engagement through creative ways, through loneliness blogs that aren't even tightly related to singles. So you have to kind of get in your audience's mind and figure out other ways they might be also searching so that you can have a broader reach. Now, of course, you can still go after your target keywords, absolutely, but you have to go after some longer tail keywords as well and get creative. The other thing is transactional. We kind of already talked about this. You have to have conversion tracking in place. You have to be tracking conversions, not just page visit, time on page, but meaningful conversions, because if you're tracking lower conversions, like page visits or time on website, then Google is going to optimize your ad campaign to meet those conversions. And what you want your campaign maximized for is completing the conversions that are important to you that connect you with that new person.
Awesome. If
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, a couple of people here, I know at least one gentleman mentioned that they are managing a few ad grant campaigns. And so I wanted to include this slide here for low performing campaigns, because a lot of times we have, I would say most of the time, almost every time that a customer comes to us and they already have an active ad campaign running, it's low performing. I have seen so many times campaigns come to us and they're only spending $100 a month and they have $10,000 a month to spend. I mean, this is a regular thing. It happens. And I will note that over 80% of our ad grant customers spend all $10,000 on average. So the ad grant program has been around since 2003. And on average from Google, an ad grant campaign will spend $1,500 a month of the $10,000.
Wow.
So now, obviously, if it's managed by a company that manages specifically ad grant campaigns, they will have a much higher result because they'll be able to do some of the creativity that we just talked about. But if you have a low performing campaign, one thing you want to look at is the competitive ad groups. Make sure under your campaign, you don't have similar ad groups that are targeting the same keywords and landing pages. One, you'll also want to look at your click-through rate. And that goes back to basically your ads. You want to look at your ads, make sure they're compelling enough, make sure you're using ad extensions. You have to maintain over a 5% click-through rate for your ad groups to stay in compliance. Even if your campaign is not suspended, but your ad groups are lower than that, it will affect the performance of your campaign. Also, you want to follow up on the policy compliance guideline, which I have clicked here again because I mentioned this already, but if you're not in compliance and you're not suspended, you still will not perform unless you have your account completely in compliance. Bid management, this happens a lot, and we have to play around with the bid structure a lot as well. And so I kind of gave you that we will start with clicks to get enough data, and then we go for the maximized conversion value. We give our conversion value in increments of 10, so 10, 20, 30. Our higher, more meaningful conversions will have the higher conversion value because those are the conversions we want completed. Google's system will try to get you more of the conversions that are most meaningful to you. So giving those a higher conversion value is very important.
Can I ask you a question, Ashley, on that? So you're saying Google's going to ask you put a dollar amount on the conversion, and you want to associate higher dollar value with your most meaningful conversions. And I'm guessing that there's a lot of nonprofits here where their conversion is not a ticket or purchasing it, so it's kind of vague. Like, what should I do there? And so, like, do you have any advice on associating that value by putting a dollar number on it when it's not actually a dollar thing on their website?
Yeah. So for contact forms, we usually will give those the highest conversion value because that's a lot of the conversions that we're tracking are contact forms. And creating that relationship, whether it's a potential customer or donor, is very valuable to us because then that, can bring on other opportunities to build on that relationship. And so we'll typically give that a $20 or $30 conversion value. Lower conversions, we'll give like $10, if it's depending on the conversion, maybe a click to call because that's not as valuable to us as a form completed.
Is it splitting hairs to try and give different values to different types of lead forms? Maybe you have like one contact form is about one thing and another contact form is for another thing. Is it getting too complicated, overthinking it to give a different conversion value to those different types of conversions, even though they're both like a form?
No, absolutely not. The more meaningful conversion, you'll want to give the higher value to.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yes. And then competing in competitive niches. So if your campaign is smaller, if you're running just one campaign and you have like 5 ad groups and they're all highly competitive keywords that you're targeting, this is where you'll want to kind of expand and think outside of the box. What other ways can you reach that audience with different types of keywords? Leveraging the ad extensions, make sure you're using as many ad extensions as possible to make your ads stand out. And ad quality performance. Just review your ad, make sure your landing page is relevant to the keywords that you're targeting in that ad group. So when they click on that keyword and they go to the landing page, that it makes sense to them why they're there. And they know what action they need to take next.
Give us some. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we just included some case studies here so that you could see kind of what all this results into. And the first one is for the Science Mill, which we've been reviewing them as an example. And it shows you where their target ad campaign locations are. So we did look at that in the campaign layout, how we had different target locations. Their ad grant spend in the last 6 months was over 57,000. Their ads were shown over 72,000 times. They had over 8,000 clicks on their ads, over 11% click-through rate, and 765 conversions. And again, the only conversions we're tracking for them under their ad campaign are the ticket sales and their shop.
Oh. I wonder how many nonprofits just pay for that and don't use the ad grant. Wow.
Right. And Science Mill, actually, their campaign performs so well each year that they do receive that 2-time money at giving season as well.
Wow. That's awesome. It's good to see a good cause furthered by a bunch of free money from Google.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm sorry, is it okay to ask this? Does this mean they got 760 free customers?
This means, 765 conversions completed, whether it was a ticket purchase or someone purchasing from their shop.
That's incredible.
All by using Google Ad Grant.
That is incredible. Good question, Dave. Wait a minute.
Yeah, break it up. Thank you. So the next is the case study for illustrative mathematics. This is the last case study. I just wanted to give one more because I know there might be some national brands here. And illustrative mathematics is a national brand. They do online learning for math. And they are targeting the entire United States with their product offerings. And so this kind of has their results underneath it. Again, they spent over 51,000. They had over 125,000 impressions, over 19,000 clicks on their ad. They have over a 15% click-through rate, and they had 275 conversions. So their conversions are downloading their math programs or purchasing their math programs.
Awesome.
And then the last part is we would love for you guys to work with us if you would like to. We do all of this for you. We will apply for Google Ad Grants if you don't currently have the ad grant campaign. So we will apply for and get it approved. And then we structure the entire campaign. So we'll do everything that we just reviewed. We will have a discovery meeting with you. We will create landing pages as needed. We will come up with creative ideas. We lay everything out and review it with your team, to edit and as needed and add to it. And of course, you review everything before it's published to your campaign. And yeah, so we will do everything that needs to be done to have a successful campaign running. We usually can get everything performing really well by month 3 and 4.
Awesome.
And Jessica's not here today, but we have her email here because she is one of the account managers at Rank Monsters. and will be available for one-on-one meetings to discuss your project. And also, we offer free audits. Jessica's at a wedding, or she would have been here to meet and greet everybody. Our packages, we do ask for a 6-month agreement. And then after that, our services are month to month, and it's $400 a month.
For $10,000 a month?
Right. And we actually are offering, if you sign up by the 28th of this month, you will get your first month free, and it will just be a 3-month agreement instead of a 6-month agreement. And to get that coupon code or that special offer, you'll just need to email Jessica or myself, and we'll send you that information to get started.
Do you want to jump into some questions here since we're coming up on the hour?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing then. So let's do this. I want to prioritize any brave souls who would like to ask their question. I see Chad already has his mic unmuted. Is anybody want to have any questions that you'd like to ask before we go through the chat? And I want to get through them all. So if you could try to keep it, 20, 30 seconds or less so that we can get through them all, that'd be wonderful. And Chad, I was just picking on you because I saw your mic was off. If you don't have a question, that's fine.
I kind of do. This nonprofit I'm working with, it's a really great nonprofit, and they're about 30% of my monthly income, and I'm the web developer.
Okay.
And so I would hate to lose them.
Yes.
And so, but I would like to find a good partnership, synergy, that you guys could help us in the area of SEO, because that's not my expertise. Branding is my expertise. SEO is my lightest area. Would you guys be willing to sign any type of agreement if I was able to persuade my client to come your direction, where I would still be the web developer of the domain? You see where I'm going with this.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually don't do web development. So absolutely, we would sign non-compete, but also we have white label services where you would be our client, and we would work with your client, and you would be the main point of contact.
Okay.
And so that might be an interesting way to work together, especially since you're the webmaster, because a lot of the work is going to be landing pages, on-page SEO, and then the ads, and you can easily communicate the ad performance over to your client. And we can still meet with your client as well. It'll just be underneath your umbrella.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to share this with them. I had no idea that there was that much available free money out there for these grants. Yeah. That's awesome. Absolutely. Great presentation. Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to ask the question live? David Matthews back. Okay.
I never left.
I know your camera just popped back on. I wasn't sure if you were going to jump in again.
But yeah, on Museum of the Bible, you showed how they spent $240,000 the past 6 months. Does that mean they got 60 of the ad grant, and then they spent 180,000 of their own on top of it?
No. So Museum of the Bible has the Ad Grants Pro program, which is no longer available, but it's $40,000. They have $40,000 a month to spend instead of just $10,000.
Oh, and they use all of it. Wow.
Yes, they use all of it. One of the reasons why I keep it in there is because a lot of times we'll have at least one person on these workshops that has Ad Grants Pro, and they're not aware of it. And it's very important to make them aware of it, because if it gets suspended, they can't get it back. You're grandfathered in, and so you want to keep that.
Okay, well, I can't wait to see. I've got several possible projects for this, and I would definitely need help with it, because I was watching how you build the campaigns. That really takes a professional. Thanks.
Totally. Anybody else want to jump on live? Ashley, there's actually a couple of really good questions in the chat, and we might be able to kind of punch through them all just for everybody here and for the replay as well. I think it'd be very helpful. But I want, again, to say thanks for whoever's here live. Anybody have any final questions before we go through the chat? All right, let's rock and roll. Okay, Ashley, Angie, she asked about setting up conversions. We didn't really go into, and I don't know that there's really time, but can you just point someone in the right direction to get started on how to set up a conversion since you've got to do that?
Yeah, so we do that underneath Tag Manager and Google Analytics.
Okay.
So, but yes, that would be its own workshop. But
Yep, totally.
we
totally.
can follow up with some information to her.
Yeah, maybe that would be a fun thing to do. Just put a bug in your ear. Okay. Chad also asked if compliance is broken, is the nonprofit ever in risk of being billed the actual funds? That's a great question.
No, they're not. They're just in risk at their campaign not performing well or being suspended.
Awesome.
Okay.
Good question. Good question, Chad. Okay, great. Thank you, Ashley, for your time. Very informative. And thank you, everybody, for being here. Great questions, great conversation.